Hey, Buckaroos. We're going live. Actually, we're so live, I think I mislabeled the live stream. So I'm going to edit that while we're talking. Because this is episode 6, not episode... I mean, it's episode 8, not episode 6. I apologize to everyone out there who cares.
I have something to say about labeling episodes.
Oh, no.
So this is a problem for scheduling purposes, and people that work with a schedule would have to manage to a schedule may understand this, but I think you're might be trapped in this right now. When you start a new season, or you start a month, or you start a week, you're technically at 0. So then the first thing is technically 0. So the first episode is technically sort of like 0, and we have to account for the 0. So if you label things wrong, you can sometimes end up being on your 4th episode, but it's really the 5th episode. I think that's where you are right now.
Oh, okay.
You're in the combination for the 0.
And in England, they call it not. So
yeah,
like not week. Like it's cool.
Yeah.
You'd go to 0th week. I got
Yep.
you. I feel you.
Yeah. I fell into that trap recently, and now I'm not sure how to get out of it, because I am trying to sync up, like, let's say you're trying to have a podcast about like the XFL week 5, but it's not actually episode 5, it's episode 6 because you had episode 0. So like if you have that if you have that 0, then it throws you off for the entire season. And then you're like, how do I remedy this? Do I just tell people it's not actually synced up? Do I try to fool people by making an edit to all the previous episodes and then sync it up? It can let you can lose sleep. And this will lead, you could end up drinking if you don't manage this properly.
Okay, so if you could end up drinking, then we need to actually get back to the debate the unscripted debate we were about to have, and we decided to go live and have it because it needs to be exciting and in real time.
Yes.
So give me.
So here's the synopsis of the debate. So people that don't drink non-alcoholic beer will criticize people that drink non-alcoholic beer as, why don't you just drink water instead of non-alcoholic beer? And then we were talking about that earlier, and the problem is, I think people are chiming in on this that don't have any experience with non-alcoholic beer, and it also feels like an unjust criticism of the people who aren't drinking to have to be banished to the corner and like have a water, but people who are drinking can just like do keg stands and everybody's fine with it. And I think that it's just ultimately not fair. So you're telling me you have an opinion on non-alcoholic beer. So I'd like to hear it, then I will defend my position.
Sorry, I was on mute because I was moving a thing around. Yes, you came on and you shocked me when you said that you were no longer drinking non-alcoholic beer, and you made it. It was such a profound declaration. It sounded like
I gave up non-alcoholic beer. Is what I essentially said.
Yes, but to me, it sounds like that's usually a statement when someone says, "Hey, I've given up smoking. I've given up, I've given up sneaking gin into my orange juice in the morning. Like, I've given up non-alcoholic beer is not generally such a declarative, but it came across as this incredible declarative to me. And then I was shocked because then you went profusely into telling me the wonders of modern non-alcoholic beer relative to older, or I guess the original non-alcoholic beers that came out like in the 80s as a gimmick, right? Well, I think of them as a gimmick.
Well, it depends on your perspective.
Well, yeah.
So I have a friend that quit drinking like maybe 8 years ago or something.
Okay.
But he enjoys, so when we go out, he still goes out. I mean, he shouldn't be banished from the village. But it seems to me that there's this divide where some people would rather just banish him for not drinking.
Isn't that weird too? That's a whole weird thing.
That's so weird.
It's like, I've been to parties, because like I'll sometimes go through little phases where I'm like, hey, I'm not drinking, because I want to cleanse my body or whatever. That's the whole thing. Do a cleanse, you do a refresh or a reset, right? Or you want to
Yep.
lose a little bit of weight because that's like dead sugar. I get it. But when I'm out and with some buddies or whatever, and they're like all drinking, and they're like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just gonna get you know, I'll get a cranberry juice or I'll get a whatever it is that is not the alcoholic drink. It's like they're offended because like you're not also. They're like, "Why are we here?" It's like, well, y'all are all paying $17 for your cocktail, right? And good for you. I'm gonna get this dollar or $1.50 cranberry juice, or the bartender's probably just gonna give it to me and roll their eyes, and it doesn't cost me anything. And we're all gonna enjoy the same stories and fun, and y'all are all gonna be like down $100 by the end of the night, and I'm not, and and that I think that's why they're mad. It's because they're like, we made an effort to go out and overspend on alcohol we could have had at home, so that we could maybe look at girls that will never give us the time of day. Now, the whole thing, right? It's like it's like Tinder Live or Bumble Live is like how they treat going out these days. But it's and to me, why I don't understand the animosity of you're not also drinking with us. That's just the weirdest thing.
It's a real thing, and so we got this buddy. So like I said, he doesn't not drink. He just drinks NAs. But I've been watching him for years struggle everywhere we go. Like, what do you have? We have duels. Oh, is that all you have?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that sucks. Because so that's what everybody thinks non-alcoholic beer is that bottle of duels that's been sitting in that cooler for 3 years.
That's the debate.
Just waiting for some sucker to buy it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you basically, you articulated my uneducated debate, because when I think of non-alcoholic beer, right, I think of O'Doul's, and it's just the worst.
It's gross.
Okay. Ugh. There are some beers that are alcohol, like they're like normal beers that taste like I don't know, fermented carbonated urine. Okay.
It's terrible.
Right. And O'Doul's came out and it was like, hey, all of the carbonated fermented urine, like you would love to drink without the benefits of it being fermented to get you tipsy. Like that's what the value proposition for me was non-alcoholic beer. And
go ahead.
Well, and so I'm saying like, and then this is where I'm going to sound like a troglodyte. I apologize. I'm just dragging my knuckles to this conversation, but like, there are very few microbrew kind of like, what do you call it? What is it? It's like the fancy beer maker people, brewmeisters.
Microbrewers, brewmasters.
Yeah, there's very few where I'm like, oh my God, this is nectar of the gods. Like, nectar of the gods never comes to mind for me with beer. There's maybe one or two exceptions. I like the what do you call it? It's not even really beer, but it's the framboise, like the raspberry beer that they make. It's kind of like a beer.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember.
But see, I would never admit that I've ever tried that.
Okay, so that is like nectar of the gods. Awesome. It's sweet and yummy and whatever. The other beer would be, there's a small microbrewery in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Oh wow.
Called Storm Brewing, and I'm going to tell you, they make a lot of really cool experimental like flavors, like pumpkin and all this stuff, right? But they make a Hefeweizen that if I was gonna have, if you told me I had to have like a Hefeweizen, right, like a summer wheat, right, basically, it is absolutely it's the best beer I've ever had in my life, and I've like had beer all over, lived several places and all that. I've gone to the microbrews, done the things.
Whoa.
Yeah. But literally Storm Brewing in Vancouver, BC. If you're in the Vancouver, British Columbia area in Canada, with all of our Canadian listeners, obviously, you need to have it. It's amazeballs. That being said,
so I have a quick brewery story. So, are you familiar with the band Fish? They're sort of a nouveau Grateful Dead not quite nouveau. They're actually pretty old at this point. But fish, so fish started in Vermont. You've been to Vermont.
Yes.
So there's a pub up there, or it's not a pub. It's like a restaurant slash band place called Nectar's, and that's where fish basically got their start. And I think they're famous for their gravy fries. There's some sort of gravy waffle fry or something like that. So all of that's very good. That's up in Burlington, Vermont. And if you walk towards Burlington Center,
love it.
Which is kind of a funky little place.
I love
there is, I think it's called the Vermont Brewing Company, and I might have this wrong, but I think it's just the Vermont Brewing Company, and it was apparently the first microbrewery before all these breweries blew up. So that was one of the first ones in the country, if not the first, one of the first, right? So we were in there one night, and we were drinking porters. And if you don't know what a porter is, it's sort of like a stout, but it's a little bit different. And apparently the train porters used to drink these. It's like kind of an interesting story where they got the name. So the guys used to drive the trains. This beer used to keep well, and so they would drink the porters, and it's called the porter. And long story short, they had one on tap that they just brewed up, and that was the best beer, arguably, I've ever had. Now, can you get it again? No, it was just on tap. And would I put porters in beers that I would rate? No, but that was the best microbrew I've ever had, and it probably wouldn't taste as good if I did it all over again.
Right.
But it was the perfect
combination of perspiration and walking and who you're with and environment and time of year and temperature of the tap when it came out, and so many factors.
So we were hitting those, and that was my favorite. It was just their house brewed porter, and you wouldn't be able to get it. It's not like something they can. But then this was a long time ago. But that was the best beer I ever had. Was probably that beer. Now there are other beers, but like I said, that's probably the best one.
So what's interesting? Okay, so this is interesting because we had a big old soda debate, like Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper and all that stuff. So I love this though because I feel like we can dovetail back into that a little bit, or what is it? Hyperlink, hypertext, whatever it is, like on a web page. We can click back to that. But basically, would you possibly consider beer to be similar to Dr. Pepper, meaning about 19 out of 20 of them are going to disappoint you deeply, and then there's that one that's like, this is why I drink a beer, right? Well, is it that way? Because that's how Dr. Pepper is.
But Dr. Pepper isn't really exactly in that category because it's always Dr. Pepper. It's not like, now not Dr. Pepper.
Fair enough.
But I take your point.
Fair enough.
So what you're basically saying is that Dr. Pepper is the king of sodas, and then all other sodas are measured by the enjoyment you get from that Dr. Pepper.
No, I wouldn't say Dr. Pepper is the king of soda. I don't even know if it's like an accredited doctor. So because the science is settled.
Okay, it was a bad analogy, but I understood what you were trying to say.
I love but basically, some people are this way about Coke, or they're that way about Sprites or something, where like there's like a perfect temperature of a cold, crisp soda, and it's fresh or whatever. Like there's this known idea that McDonald's has these special CO2 cartridges and metal casings for the Coca-Cola that they have, whereas all the other fast food places have like plastic jugs that they come out of, right? And so supposedly, the saying is McDonald's Coca-Cola hits different because it's like crisper and fresher and whatever. And
I would just completely disagree with that sentiment altogether. I think that sodas that you get out of taps at fast food places are horrible.
Yes. Well, no,
I would if I was going to get a Coca-Cola, it has to be in a can. I don't even want it in a plastic bottle.
Wow, you're like
must
hardcore.
Be a can. Yeah.
Right.
It tastes different.
Oh, it does. Absolutely. A little bit of nickel goes a long way. So,
so let me get let me get back to
get back to it. I apologize for this.
There's another part of this debate. So this all started because I gave up non-alcoholic beer. So we've been talking about this for a half hour.
Yes, I don't understand, but go ahead.
Because there's an entire beer debate that rages. So before microbrews existed, okay?
Yeah.
You would have just lager beer. So Miller Lite, Budweiser, Bud Light, Coors Light, Coors, something in that genre. Just cheap beer that you could chug. You could have an 18-pack, maybe Natty Light, or maybe Ice House, or whatever you want, Rolling Rock. There are bunches of these. So these are the big commercial beers, right? So then if you didn't like that, you'd have to go with a German-style lager or a Pilsner, like St. Pauli Girl, or something that was a little more skunky, Heineken.
I can't do Pilsner.
So then that would give you a little different flavor. Yeah. But then the microbrews came in, and then it was like ales. And then now it's become hardcore, super hazy IPAs, and like way over on one side of the spectrum. So I'm thinking about Cadillac Jack right now. So she's just doing Miller Lite with the tomato juice, right? So there's some value in that, but that whole thing and like a proper pint of an IPA at a microbrew, those things are not in the same. You will get there are microbrewers where you can't get a Budweiser. They will laugh you out. They will be like, please leave right now for even asking if we have Budweiser. So, and I've seen that because I used to work in the restaurant bar and everything.
Wait, hold on. Didn't I make a joke at Bukowski's when we were there, and we were at the bar, and I basically asked for I think I was being really funny, and I was like, "Do you have the banquet beer?" Because it's Coors, right? I think I said something and the bartender just
looked at you like, "Shut the hell up."
Yeah, and then he went and basically just pulled something off tap and handed to me. I think he knew we were kind of. I think he knew I was kind of kidding.
Yeah. But I've been in situations where I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna work well. Like I've been in I used to frequent this particular. It wasn't really even a microbrewery. It was just it was a pub, but they served their own beer. They had a selection of their own. But then they actually had, I think it was actually Natty Light they would keep on tap, but they would just call it their house lager, but it was actually just Natty Light, but they never told anybody. And I'm like, you bastard. People think they're getting this house light summer lager and you're just serving them Natty Light. It's just such a lie. Anyways, I don't want to go down that road.
That's okay.
But so there's this big divide between the microbrews and just the straight Miller Lite types like Cadillac Jack. And now this rages because I think the microbrews there are too many of them right now.
Yeah.
So now you're just trying, I'm looking at if I like the artwork on the can more than I'm really interested in the beer. So then I don't know I think you just have to find a mode of beer that you like, and then you're just going to go to that. But they taste slightly different, and they can be very disappointing. It's starting to get so complicated.
Yes.
But to bring this all back, what I'm saying is, if you're going non-alcoholic, it's not just the lousy O'Douls anymore. There are actually good ones now that taste like actual beer. So now they don't taste like microbrew IPAs. They sort of just taste like regular beers with more carbonation, or they're just better. They're just better versions of a lighter style beer. So even a non-alcoholic IPA isn't going to be thick and hazy like an actual IPA. It doesn't recreate that well, but it'll be decent. And actually, some of them are better than some of the ones that are getting hyped up as being good. So that's how far this game has come. Now, I have one other thing I want to say.
Okay.
When we see all these commercials for March Madness or for sports, they're always hyping I just got out of the office and now I'm going to go for a jog with my girlfriend and we're going to work out and then we're gonna take a shower and we're gonna go hang out and have like a Mick Ultra or whatever because it's like low calorie for like an active lifestyle. Well, in that case, I would argue, why don't you just drink water? Or why don't you just have a non-alcoholic beer? Because what is the point of like a Mick Ultra, which is basically saying it's almost no alcohol and it's almost calorie free, but not quite? Well, at that point, why bother? What's the point of that? But those people never get criticized. They get looked at like, wow, you're healthy and active, and wow, I really respect the fact that you live this active lifestyle and you drink Mick Ultra. And then I come in with my non-alcoholic, or my buddies come in with their non-alcoholic. We're like, why don't you just drink water? Why would you possibly drink that? And that's the disconnect I'm ultimately getting at. It is inherently unfair. It is it's prejudiced against non-alcoholic beer drinkers. And you would just never say this to a Mick Ultra drinker. You would just be like, wow, you're sporty. You're amazing. Look at how light you're keeping things. But if I have like no alcohol, I get criticized. Does that make any sense what I'm saying?
It does.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because the Michelob 100 or whatever it is, the advertisement where the hot guy and girl like leave the gym and then hit the bar and have the Michelob 100 together. And I'm like,
she's still got the white towel thrown over her shoulder at the bar.
Right.
She's still in the yoga outfit.
Because, Michelob 100, that's the same demographic as Gatorade and Powerade. And, there's just nothing says, healthy lifestyle, like slamming a beer that's only 100 calories after your Pilates.
So to my point, if I'm going to the gym, why the heck should I even bother with non-alcohol? That was my whole point. I'm like, I might as well just give up NA beer too, because what benefit is it if I'm hitting the gym and I've got the challenge and I'm going to try to bench press 50 pounds today. Yeah. I'm going to try to do 5 push-ups, right? What the heck do I want to like follow that up with a bunch of non-alcoholic beer? That was my larger point. But then the criticism I got was like, hey, weirdo, why don't you just drink water? It's like, well, why don't you just not drink like whatever you're drinking? Like what? Like just let me enjoy my non-alcoholic beer. So finally another guy chimed in who was a buddy of the guy that was criticizing me. And he's like, dude, I'm a raging alcoholic. And what you're telling me is I shouldn't enjoy something that keeps me from going on major benders. Like I can actually enjoy this without like beating my wife afterwards or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, and that was his attitude. Not that he beats his wife, but you get my point. So like that was his attitude. I'm like, hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But like I said, I'm like, you're not even a non-alcoholic beer drinker. So who are you to criticize?
Yeah. For me, not. I love how like everyone like reduces to like the what is it, like it's the white sleeveless shirt potbelly walking out of the trailer park to the hail damaged Chevy it's like you just get this visualization of someone who just can't stop drinking beer. Right. And, they're waiting on their OSHA claim from their union rep or something. But
no, it's that move. It's that there's a cartoon that takes place in Texas where they just stand around by the shrubs and drink their beers. What the heck is it's like a Simpsons knockoff. I can't remember the name. But
yeah, it's the
they're basically
guy.
Always drink. The whole thing is it's like these poor guys that just always by the
Boom Hour or whatever his name is.
Yeah, it's hysterical. But that's like it's sort of this meme because one of the guys on that has the wife beater, right? And it's like there's just this thing, and I'm like,
King
wait
of
a second.
Hill,
So now, King of the Hill, yeah. So it's like now you're basically saying I might as well be wearing a wife beater even though I'm in a suit. You know what I mean? Because I dared to crack open a non-alcoholic beer. So I just said, what's
hilarious is like that the term for that shirt, right, is like really offensive, technically. But I think
and the thing is,
I think because it's disparaging of people who are awful, I think that's why it slides. Maybe it's weird.
So you're offended by the shirt, or offended by calling the shirt a wife beater?
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, like I always think of that shirt as some. So I think of a couple of people when I think of that shirt, right? And generally, I think of Marlon Brando, and On the Waterfront. That's who I usually think of, right? I think of it could have been a contender, could have been a somebody, and so to me, someone who wears that shirt is someone who just failed in their aspiration of being a better person. That's how I see that shirt. So I see it more as like a fail tee, a failure tee, rather than you know
well, I will say something. I'm not sure how I feel about tank tops in general. Like, I'm not sure that that's ever appropriate
for a dude,
any circumstance.
For a dude, like there are.
Yeah, like I don't totally get it I don't
at
really
all
ever get that.
Okay.
I'm not saying I've never worn a tank top, and I'm not saying
I hated
that.
That's what I hate about. Okay. Well, I mean, we're in tank top season.
Back in the day, if you were a jogger or a runner, they were all tank tops. They didn't have. They were all like tank tops. Yeah. That was the look if you were a runner.
Yeah.
So in a technical use case like that, where that's the outfit,
yes,
then I would argue that was okay. But now with all these options, I don't see that. I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I thought that a tank top was appropriate in any situation.
Yes, and to me, I'm going to tell you how I feel about tank tops, and this is how we're going to pivot back to actual sports. I hated.
This is a sports show.
I know,
let's not forget that.
But I hated. I hated playing basketball when I was a kid because I had scrawny arms, and I hated wearing a tank top because it was just like, hey, look at my clavicles, and and see how like my biceps and triceps are underdeveloped. It was just like, hey, check it out. And so to me, the only time it's appropriate is if you are like on a basketball court actually. So like we are in tank top season, and it's weird because you know it's like to me it's a basketball jersey. That's all it is.
But even if you're wearing a basketball jersey, and I see how you're cleverly going to tie this all back together like I'm one step ahead of you. Well, let's say you were FDU playing Texas Southern, and you a 16 versus a 16. Well, that's gonna be a little bit different than if you're a Furman, a 13 taken out of Virginia.
Yeah.
But I would say even if you are wearing a basketball jersey to support your team, you should wear something under it. Like there's never an appropriate moment to wear a tank top inside. Why that should never happen. That should never happen.
Okay, I think I think the official position of the podcast is a crew tee under a tank top.
Yeah, and imagine this is like, all right, we got a guy drinking non-alcoholic beer and a wife beater. He seems like he's wrecking the place. It's like, no, you'd never hear that. Like, I'm just saying. he's had one too many non-alcoholic beer. Should have had water. I mean, see how ridiculous it sounds? Come on.
Yes. So I support you in your declaration of giving up non-alcoholic beer.
Thank you. Listen, if I can do this, you guys can do this too. So if you're struggling with not drinking alcohol, then listen, I can tell you, give up non-alcoholic beer. Your life is good on the other side of that.
Yes, ginger ale it is. So
I hate ginger ale. Why you? No, water for you. That's it. Tap water, actually.
So, all right. Then let's dig into some of the. Okay, this is the best March Madness. Okay, so we already mentioned this, but like March Madness is, even if you're not a basketball person, it is the most wonderful like 2 to 3 weeks if you are a Schadenfreude person. So there are so many schools that I love to root against. Like I love to root against Duke. I love to root against Arizona. I love to root
Duke
against
is
Baylor
out,
and
baby. They
Texas
are
and
out.
right. And so to me, I get like 7 or 8 or 10 Schadenfreudes, and at worst, I'm only going to have one disappointment because there's only one champion, right? Um, so the ratio of Schadenfreude to disappointment for March Madness for me is just it's when my mood boosts post Super Bowl. Like I'm kind of in this lull, pitchers and catchers, yada yada. There's nothing going on, like axe throwing, cornhole, like nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden, March Madness, and I get like a 3 week surge of dopamine from all the Schadenfreude. Can we go over some of these phenomenal upsets?
Oh yeah. I'm looking at this list, and this is an unusual year because there have been a bunch of upsets, which is just unusual. Usually you get one, maybe two. There's a lot happening in 2 rounds now of upsets. So,
oh yeah, so yeah. The one there's a couple that happened immediately, like literally straight out of the gate. Furman beats Virginia 13/4, and that just shocked everyone. But then Princeton beat Arizona, number 2 Arizona, and basically 99.98 of all brackets were busted at that point. Meaning some doofus from Princeton is probably going to win like the big grand prize just for do you know what I mean? Some Princeton fan is going to be the guy who wins.
I told you, like Princeton's been in this spot before.
Yeah.
So that didn't surprise me at all. I don't think I said specifically I thought they were going to go past the second round, but I'm not surprised that they knocked off Arizona. Princeton, when some of these Ivies get in, sometimes they get hot.
Yeah, and you can never count them out because strategery is their specialty. They know how to do it. Now on the other side, number 1 Purdue, right? They got knocked off by Fairleigh Dickinson. How do you is that an Irish? Is that an Irish school? Fairleigh Dickinson?
No.
What is Fairleigh Dickinson?
Fairleigh. It sounds more Englishy to me. Fairleigh.
What is Fairleigh Dickinson? I don't know what Fairleigh Dickinson is. So, is it Farley or is it Fairleigh?
No, Fairleigh.
It's Fairleigh Dickinson?
Yep.
Don't you just want to like celebrate St. Patrick's Day saying Fairleigh Dickinson University? Like I feel
actually, that is not. Hold on. Now I gotta look.
It's a private university in Madison, New Jersey. So to me, it just sounds.
No, but I'm trying to look up.
Sounds so Irish for some reason.
To me, it doesn't sound Irish to me.
Oh, come on, just use the accent.
It's in New Jersey, for God's sake.
I know, but I mean,
there.
what does Fairleigh Dickinson mean? Like, let's see.
Private university. So hold on. Interesting.
It was named after early benefactor Colonel Fairleigh S. Dickinson, co-founder of Becton Dickinson.
No, but that's not. See, no, it looks more. It doesn't look Irish to me. This is more of. I'm looking at their crest, and it doesn't look Irish to me.
Okay,
so this is
fair enough. You're just ruining my fun. The dormitory looks kind of dull. FDU Roxton, Vancouver campus. Oh, there's a Fairleigh Dickinson in Vancouver as well. And there's a Roxton College is located in Oxford, England. So it is English related.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's not Irish.
No, but to me, I just love the
it had an English thing to me because I live closer to. I live close to the Appalachian Trail, and that's.
They also have a campus in the Virgin Islands. This sounds like a fun school to go to.
Yeah, I'm going here. I'm going back to school. 2
campuses in New Jersey, Vancouver, South England. Oh, Hackensack. Oh my gosh, they sound like Billy Joel. That's what they sound like. 100%.
Yeah, this is. Oh, it's in Hackensack. Oh God.
No, it's in Madison. It's in Madison, New Jersey. But they've also got other campuses in Florham Park, Hackensack, Teaneck.
It is not clear. The Dickinson part is a multinational medical technology company. Like, what in the world?
I
just
don't
want to know
understand
where the word fairly comes from.
There's 12.
God.
It's from the benefactor Fairleigh S. Dickinson. He's the co-founder.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell me the origin of the word
what Fairleigh is? Oh, I can find that for you. I mean, why not? Let's just go all the way down the rabbit hole.
So yeah, it's English. It's definitely English. I was right. You were wrong. Not Irish.
But I love saying it with an Irish accent. So.
Nah.
No. That's so upsetting.
Yep. Well, so they won, so that's good.
Yeah,
like that.
And they're gonna play Florida. Hold on, who is it? It's I actually I didn't know what FAU was. Like I had to look it up. I had to actually go to Google to figure out what FAU. Yeah.
What's FAU?
Florida Atlantic University. They beat Memphis, and Memphis is an 8 seed, but a really strong 8. FAU is a 9 seed, so I still consider that to be a pretty hardcore upset. So we've got Fairleigh Dickinson and Florida Atlantic facing off to see who's going to battle Tennessee, because Tennessee is a 4 seed, and they just knocked off Duke, which is a 4 over a 5. But Duke is just like, how much Schadenfreude do you get when Duke is out? It's amazing. And then let's see who else.
Drake lost as well. Miami, Florida.
Absolutely.
Miami, Florida beat Drake.
Drake. Yeah. So Howard was devastatingly crushed by Kansas, and then yesterday one of the greatest moments in my adult life was when Arkansas beat Kansas, and it was glorious.
Lovely.
Absolutely glorious. So now Arkansas is waiting on the St. Mary's UConn game today. So how do you feel about UConn?
Well, I didn't see them playing the first game, but it looks like they easily beat Iona, who I was rooting for.
Yes.
But hard to say. I mean, it's possible UConn could be good. Like, I thought Providence would be a little bit better, but I also said they were in a very, very tough bracket, having to play Kentucky in the first round, and they lost. So I could see UConn getting bounced in the next round, no question. Or they could move on. It's really hard to say. But Arkansas, man, that's a big win right there.
Phenomenal. Wow. So I think Arkansas could get past either UConn or St. Mary's next, because they're in the Sweet 16. TCU Gonzaga play later tonight, and TCU kind of opened up crushing Arizona State, and then Arizona State took back over the game and looked like it was just going to break TCU's hearts, and then TCU kind of put on a clinic in the last 2 minutes and squeaked past Arizona State. It was glorious. And they're going to face Gonzaga, who just walloped Grand Canyon. It's like Grand Canyon sounds to me like one of those online schools. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, take our online courses and become like a dental assistant, thing. Is Grand Canyon a real school?
Grand Canyon is a real school. It's actually a rather famous school for college soccer.
Oh, is it?
So Grand Canyon's legit.
Okay.
Soccer.
I had no idea.
But I mean, they're not a big basketball school, and as far as I know.
Yeah.
So.
Because you hear like these schools, and sometimes you're like, is that just a brand that they've created?
I think it would be cool to go to a school near Grand Canyon.
Is it actually in the Grand Canyon? Like, is
it's in the Colorado River on a raft floating through the Grand Canyon, apparently.
Okay, so this is also what I love about March Madness, is I get to find out about all these schools that I don't know anything about. So,
I was gonna say, why don't we take a quick look at who is already in
the Sweet 16?
So if you look at the Sweet 16, there are teams. So Tennessee is already in.
Yeah.
So FDU versus FAU is going to play Tennessee in the Sweet 16. So that's going to be just like the acronym battle. And then Arkansas is waiting for St. Mary's or UConn, so they're already through. And let me see. UCLA is going to beat TCU. Also, UCLA is waiting for TCU or Gonzaga. I just hope to God TCU can beat Gonzaga.
Oh my gosh, I'm so tired.
So tired of Gonzaga.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for TCU. They do have the most fast point breaks like per game, and so if you try to like go quick on them, they can kind of crush you. The best way to beat TCU is to force them into a 3-point battle. If you have a better 3-point percentage than they do, you can kind of bait them into missing shots and kind of succumbing. So that's really the trick for Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga could probably nip them because they probably got a better 3-point game than TCU has. But we're all hopeful. It'll be.
Check this out. Princeton is waiting on Creighton or Bay. It just says Bay.
That's Baylor.
So I don't know who Bay is.
That's Baylor.
Oh, Baylor. Oh God, they can't write out Baylor.
Right. Yeah, they got to be all hip. It's the Bay.
Well, Cray. So Baylor is 6 letters, and Cray. They have Cray versus Bay. I wonder if they did that just so it would rhyme. But I mean, Cray has 6 letters. You'd think they could write Baylor out instead of confusing it.
Bay, Cray,
And then Then Texas is playing either Pitt or Xavier. So this is in Houston, winner of Miami versus IU. So,
Alabama and San Diego State are already lined up in the Sweet 16. I am a huge San Diego State fan. Hate to admit it, but I love their basketball team. San Diego's a fun town to have fun in perfect weather. It's like,
it's always perfect weather, but it's a little bit. You got to have some coin if you're going to hang out in San Diego. It's rather expensive.
Well, the thing that's weird about San Diego to me is I'm floored that 12 million people flock to LA instead of 12 million people flocking to San Diego. Like, San Diego seems like it should have been like the big city. And I think if it wasn't for like just Hollywood being located in LA, it probably would have shaken out that way. Because San Diego is phenomenal.
Because LA, it's weird how and San Diego is bigger than Santa Barbara, obviously, but it's almost like you have these 2 oases away from the craziness on north, that sandwich in LA between them.
Yeah.
But like, why would you want to deal with all that noise up closer to Los Angeles when you could just be living the life in San Diego?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Really
La Jolla's right there, the little tennis polo club thing.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So you can do like your regatta if you're like really rich. It would be amazing. You get on a boat.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the reason people aren't going there is just because it's so damn expensive there. La Jolla, I think La Jolla might be like the most expensive place in the entire country to live.
Yeah, most likely that would be. Yeah, it's amazing though. So San Diego, and I don't know if I'm like sold on Alabama yet. I just feel like they played Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, whatever. They played Maryland, who like squeaked past West Virginia. So it's like whatever. So San Diego State's going to be.
Oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was just saying San Diego State's going to be their first kind of real test next week.
Well, I was just going to say about Corpus Christi is I watched that game, and I'm telling you, it's just like, guys, just shoot the basketball. They were so hesitant to ever take shots. They would just keep moving around and dribbling around until they just had
they
guys were just
themselves out.
Yeah, they were just passing up on open looks. It's like, guys, when you're playing a better team, you're just going to take your shot. But they would just dribble around, and then they'd get a terrible shot. And then I think they could have. I think that was poor coaching. I think that the moment was too big for that team. I didn't think that Alabama was like so much better, but I just think Corpus Christi was just afraid.
They were just shell-shocked. They're happy to be there.
Yeah.
They're like the guy who hokoed the cheerleader, and she said yes, and then and he was just shell-shocked at prom or whatever, or homecoming, and then she ends up leaving with someone else at the dance. So that's how I see it.
didn't think it was anything like that, but thank you for that story. I just felt like they weren't taking open shots. It was. I don't know where you go. I don't know where your mind goes.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just like that isn't even in the ballpark of what we're talking about. But yeah. So who do you like? So obviously TCU is the big one for you.
Yeah, so we got Pitt, Xavier. We've got Miami, Indiana going to face, fighting it out to face Houston. No, wait, that's next week. Creighton, Baylor. I would love Creighton to beat Baylor, to go face Princeton. I don't know. I kind of am rooting for Fairleigh Dickinson over Florida Atlantic to go face Tennessee next week. That would be awesome. Kentucky, Kansas State. I would love both of these teams to forfeit and leave the tournament. That would be amazing. I don't know. I can't decide which team I like less. So it's hard. How do you feel about Kentucky, Kansas State? Oh, I lost you. What? Here we go. We'll just do it again on live TV.
Six.
La Jolla.
Hello, you there?
Yes.
Sorry, I did a little music interlude there for you.
Nice.
So I'm not sure how it dropped. Did I accidentally hang up on you?
Well, all of a sudden, I don't think you could hear me, and then it dropped.
It just went beep beep. Yeah, because we're getting trolled. 100%. The system's against us. Rage against the machine until they induct you into the Hall of Fame and then be a part of the machine.
Let me tell you something. I'm very, very disappointed in Providence. I thought that they would have done better considering they had a very good season.
Yeah.
So that was terrible. And I'm very, very disappointed in Vermont. I thought they would show a little bit more. But, yeah, so my two local teams, pretty much terrible.
Okay. So, let's see. We've got TCU, Gonzaga's the late game. Would love TCU, but let's be honest, Gonzaga will probably nip them. St. Mary's, UConn. I don't care because either of them are going to lose to Arkansas next week.
Correct.
Pitt, Xavier. Xavier's pretty damn good. But Pitt's not bad.
Are we sleeping on Texas though, or are they just okay?
I'm not sleeping on Texas. I just am. They had a bunch of coaching drama this year, and it's like a story. And like every time they talk about Texas, it's just like it feels to me like an NBC Olympics thing where they talk about crap that has nothing to do with the team or the play or it's like it's all about the drama outside the line. And I just so on principle I dislike it. But last night there was an egregious up and down. So like in basketball, you know what an up and down is, right?
Yeah.
So like the player like stops dribbling, jumps into the air, and then lands again, right, with the ball not having shot it down, right?
Yep.
It's 4 steps essentially. And basically Texas was in peril of losing that game, and I can't pronounce the guy's last name, Disu or whatever. He's the big man. But he literally, it was an up and down. I'm going to post it on the TikTok. I was so angry about it. But it was like, clearly NFL officiating has infiltrated NCAA March Madness because it was an egregious non-call of a clear violation, simple rule to enforce. And for some reason, they just let it slide. And it felt like after that point, Texas just kind of like knew that they were going to get nudged in because, I don't know, it was just weird. So I didn't care for that at all. But that's neither here nor there. So I'm just not a Texas person the school in a lot of ways. So just tedious.
I'm not sure that I'm sold on the burnt orange either. That's always I don't know if that's one of those colors that I don't know if I truly like that color or if that color should be banished.
Well, it's almost one of our logo colors for the podcast.
Oh, I love it. I love the Texas orange.
No, but seriously, I don't like the burnt orange as a uniform color. Like I don't like the Cleveland Browns. I don't think brown and like weird orange should be like a color scheme for a team. So I'm just not a burnt orange for that kind of stuff. I like the color itself. Like if you're gonna give me like a Porsche in burnt orange or something, I would think that's bad to the bone. But I don't like burnt orange on like as a team logo. Like I like Princeton orange, like a little bit more. It needs to be a little bit more.
A little bit more pop. Yeah,
a little more pumpkin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Bungles. I like the Bungles orange. I much prefer the Bungles
I'm not completely sold on University of Miami's green either. Like that's a weird green. It's not exactly the color green. It's like it's weird. It doesn't remind me of Miami. It seems it's too foresty. The color's wrong. So yeah, I guess I have some criticisms here.
Sweet. We are. Hey, our stream is lagging in bit rate. That's so fascinating.
Oh, man,
me. It's so fascinating to me.
Well, that's because they're after us. They're after us. They know.
Absolutely, they're after us. That's fine. All right. So then I think we've kind of got it all nipped up. Do you have a clear favorite at this point? Do you still like Houston to kind of like march all the way to the title? Do you have a wish list?
I think. You could end up with Houston, Texas, and then that'd be like Houston, Texas. No, Houston, Texas. No, it's Houston, Texas, not Houston, Texas. I could see that coming from a mile away. No, it's Texas and Houston. Houston, Texas. All right, I'll stop now.
That's cool. Actually,
let me see. Prince.
I think our live stream got taken down. Actually.
Oh man.
We're talking about cap it for you.
Talking about wife beaters and non-alcoholic beer that just busted the algorithm. So bad. So Princeton, I guess I'm going for. I guess I am just hoping for a miracle that Princeton can just go all the way, because I don't really care. Texas teams in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right. It is now streaming again for some reason. I don't understand the YouTubes anymore.
No, YouTube. Can I just criticize YouTube real quick?
Yes, let's go for it.
They've turned it into it's rubbish now. It is. They want it to just be like the dumbest. They've removed everything that's interesting about it. It's all just it's basically become what it used to be, which was cat videos. That's what they want it to be. It's like videos of your cat doing funny things. That's what gets you a lot of likes.
Well, what's tedious to me about the YouTubes is on the short side, they allow you to, choose a little music bed, right, from some pop artist, and it's like supposed to promote the virality of it, because like, hey, if people like this song, they'll like this little clip that you post, yada yada, right? That's the whole idea. It's the artist gets paid a little royalty from you getting views on with their song underneath it and all that, right? But so I did this. I posted one of our things, and I put a little piece of music under there, which I thought was really apropos, and that means appropriate. And we got a copyright claim strike thing on it, and I was like, how is it a copyright claim strike when I'm using the music you offered to me to put underneath it? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me how it could be a copyright claim when it's the music bed that I have selected from the choices they have provided to me. Like I didn't have the music. It was my selection of the music they offered me. So
But the problem that I have, which we've talked about before, is what difference does it make? It isn't like you're trying to steal this music to make money off of it, claiming it's yours. It's just music. I fundamentally don't understand why they even care if you use a song. It's just going to promote the song. Like you're not arguing that you own the rights to it. You're not collecting a royalty off of it. Like I don't fundamentally get any of this in like these videos, because I've actually watched videos where there are songs playing in the background that don't get flagged.
yeah,
I'm like, so it's not, they're not finding all of them.
yeah, it's very arbitrary. I think it's more like some troll doesn't like your video and they like click the little report button. I think that's more in line with how all this crap actually goes down.
But you would think though they would have some sort of review before they pull it down.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah. So it was the sound was removed, and then it was like, do you want to replace the sound with like another song from this selection of songs? And I was like, no, I want the sound of like the conversation we were having. Like just remove that background sound that, like, can't you just remove the background sound that you asked me to select from and then just leave us talking? Like that seems like the solution, right? But
what I don't fundamentally understand about this algorithm is this. I could understand if it was a big account that was going to, let's say, make a bunch of YouTube bucks, right? And then that song was part of it, and they want a royalty on it. But if they're flagging videos that don't even have any views, and the copyright striking you. It's like, what?
Yeah. How dare you try to get 300 views?
Yeah.
It's just absolutely brutal.
It's really just insane. It's just becoming dumber and dumber. And I'm not saying I don't like dumb things, but YouTube is just, let me tell you something.
Yes.
From what I can see with Elon Musk, who retweets our podcast for us when we need to get more views.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elon. What he's been posting lately on Twitter is going to eventually just wreck YouTube. YouTube is not even going to be a thing if Twitter can manage this correctly.
Oh, absolutely. If Elon gets into long form and then justly pays creators, it's gonna be lights out, and there's gonna be they're gonna try and take it down just like they're trying to take down the tickety talk. It's all about eyeball retention, right? So if you don't have the eyeballs, you can't like get information into them that your overlords want. It's a big old mess. And I don't understand the YouTube. I mean, I love the I love the format, and I love the actual product, but in terms of being able to utilize it to get out into the world and connect with people, it just seems like it's very hamstrung for some reason, and I don't know what that is. But like,
which app is that?
The YouTubes.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
right.
I don't know why it feels like it's just like you're just kind of like siloed or something a little bit. So it's very strange. But
for me, the thing that I'm noticing is it's very inconsistent in what they put behind. So there are certain videos now that are not pornographic that you have to sign in to view. And I'm like, well, why do I have to sign in to view a video that isn't pornography or isn't like inappropriate? Right. It's very inconsistent. And then I can find another video that's essentially the exact same thing as this one, but it's not being age restricted.
Yeah, and so what you mean is they call it sensitive. They call it sensitive material or something, right? Twitter had the same thing where it was like someone would like chat you, like message you a link, right, to a Twitter post, and then you'd open it up, and it would say you need to change your privacy settings in order to view this tweet.
Yes.
And it's like,
and then you couldn't figure out how to do that though. You have to you can't actually do it from the app, which is just bizarre.
So you have to go to your computer and then change some privacy setting that's buried in somewhere to do something, and to be able to see it. And and then you finally open up the stupid link, and it's literally like a cat, walking along like a balcony, and someone rescuing the cat off the balcony, and it's like, oh my gosh, thank you for making me change my privacy settings so I can see this cat getting rescued. Like, what is going on with the algorithm? Like, I don't get it.
I think so. I was very suspect. About Elon Musk for about 2 to 3 weeks. I got very suspect about Twitter and what his motivation was with all of this. And you sort of were like, no, it's all good, it's all good. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So he's been tweeting some stuff out lately that leads me to believe part of the problem is his programmers just can't make heads or tails about what the heck the former team did. That's to me, they just don't know what the hell is happening. They can't believe what they're seeing, and they're like, it's just going to take a long time to reprogram things that just make no sense. Because I have a feeling, and I heard this a while back, that Twitter just got out of control, and they probably, who knows if they when they were coding it, if they put notes in there, who knows what this thing does. And I think they're just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And I bet his engineers are like, this is so stupid that we now have to just remedy all of it. But if he puts in the ability to put video, and they don't censor it, this is very important, then this is going to destroy YouTube. It's going to wreck, because why would I want to go to YouTube if it's just cat videos again?
Yeah. I think all of the people who, when Elon said he was going to buy Twitter and then he finally bought Twitter, and they were all like, oh, it's going to go out of business. It's going to be terrible. It's going to get run into the ground. And it's like, here we are at least 6 months later, right? And all of the people who are like, I'm leaving, because of it, none of them really left, right? Maybe a few people did, whatever. But Twitter is just banging right along, right? It's better than it was. But to your point, there's still all these weird technical debt from the algorithm, shadow banning people or whatever it was. It was, it was like if you didn't have your phone number synced to your account or something, then you wouldn't get as much push out into the world, or whatever it is, whatever the rule, the hidden rule that you didn't know. That was what was annoying about it, is you didn't know what the hidden rules were, right? It's like, oh, you've tweeted or retweeted something that we find objectionable, so we're gonna lower your your sphere of influence or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But if you knew what the rules were,
right,
on the surface, and it's like, oh, well then maybe I wouldn't retweet that, or maybe I wouldn't, it's not worth it to me. That stupid cat on a balcony video is not worth it to me to lose my, visibility, right? And that's a fair conversation to have with a private company. You know what I mean? It's just,
plus for a consumer of content.
Yeah.
So again, I can choose to turn something off if I don't like it.
Yeah.
So and I understand that maybe you don't want to have certain things on your platform.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a problem with
I'm totally fine with filters. Filters are great.
Yeah,
filters
just give us filters and say I don't want to see.
There's lots of things, and we don't need to go into specifics, but there are lots of things we don't want to see.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, I don't even have a problem with that. But the problem is, it's just not consistent with what they're going to flag and what they're going to let through. So
stuff gets flagged that not true or misinformation when it clearly is true, and you're like,
right.
Don't believe your lying eyes. It's this weird disconnect. And I've had conversations with people.
I stopped using YouTube a lot. I used to be like my go-to. I used to just go to YouTube, but now I'm like, so I go to YouTube, and now 15 minutes into your live stream, you're like, okay, we can't talk about this anymore. You have to go to Rumble, or else we're going to get flagged. So go to Rumble.
Right.
So like, why am I on YouTube then if I now have to go to a different platform to hear what you have to say because you're afraid they're going to flag you or ban you? Like, why are you even on this platform?
Speaking of, we got our error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. I think I'm shocked. Like,
wow.
so while I'm talking to you though, this is just curious. Like,
does that mean because there isn't actually a video, it's just talk?
No, it's because, no, what it means is, so I'm going to do a speakeasy speed test and just see what my actual upload is, and then see.
This is really technical, folks. We're high tech here, very high tech. We're analyzing the spectrum.
I'm going to see what it actually says. Yeah, so my up is. Oh no, that's my down.
Uh-oh.
Hold on, what's my down? My up is 7. So it's a little clogged for some reason. I don't know why it's clogged.
That's crazy.
Weird. That's weird.
So.
My download. What?
Uh-oh.
My download is 7. My upload is 7. There should not be an issue with streaming to YouTube.
Well, so you know what? The other thing that's funny is apparently the algorithm will ding you if people stop watching the video. So again, if the video is like an hour long, and then they're going to ding you if somebody drops it after 20 minutes.
Right.
Just like, what is the point of all of that? It's just like, so this is, it all forces you to just try, instead of just putting out the content you want and then having people find it, it's all working against you. So then it forces you to just try to manipulate the algorithm versus just putting out content. It's just that it is not the way that, so it'll ultimately become like a version of TikTok.
Yeah.
That is what YouTube is, they want. It seemingly that's what they want. Short videos that are meaningless, that just you can scroll through or click on, and it's just not, it isn't giving you any useful information. It's just pure entertainment. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't get dinged because somebody like listens to something for 45 minutes and then drops. Like not everybody has an hour, or maybe they've got to go somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we got another warning on our bitrate health. Even though on my computer there's no justification for it, and out of my streaming software, it tells me what's going out. So like whatever information YouTube is giving me is misinformation.
Misinformation. Well,
anyway, that being said,
what do you mean? Like can you manipulate your bit rate, or is that just completely arbitrary?
So like my bit rate is coming out of my streaming software, and I can see it. It's a big green light. I've got 4363, 4608, right? And YouTube was telling me that it was like down to like 1800 or something, and I'm like, that's impossible because I'm watching my software, and then I just did my speakeasy speed test, and I see what my megabits is up and down, and so there's something going on with YouTube that they're not receiving my bit rate.
Yep.
But it has nothing to do with.
Afraid of that it's going to drop the quality? Like, why would they even have that?
Well, what it'll do is, like, so when you play back the live stream where it's low bit rate and you get the warning, it would basically just cut that out and then it starts back up when the bit rate returns. In theory, if you were talking about something that you weren't supposed to be talking about, it would magically go to low bit rate, and then when it gets played back, that part is magically not there. That's basically the long and the short of it, without putting on a tinfoil hat. Anyway, that being said, let's get into the NFL real quick. Before we're donezo, because it's
Gonzo. Let's go.
It's about, maybe I'm going to bet you the Now, hold on. Excellent connection now. So let's see if we get a warning while we're talking about the NFL and not corrupt algorithms. Okay, this is breaking news. You ready?
Yes.
Sources say the Dallas Cowboys trade for Texans wide receiver Cooks. Braden Cooks is now a. Why do I have to rate the app when I'm reading an article? Stop asking me to rate the app. I'm using the app. Obviously, I like it. Frisco, Texas, wanting to add speed and complement CD Lamb. The Texans are trading Brandon Cooks for a 5th round and a 6th round. Oh my gosh, what a deal for Dallas. This is actually the best deal possible. He's gonna make like 18 million. 6 million. Houston's gonna cover, so it's only gonna cost the Cowboys 12 million. Holy cow!
Wait, to get Brandon Cooks?
Yes. So Houston is getting 2 picks, giving up Cooks, and shipping $6 million of the salary. Oh my gosh! So they're gonna get an $18 million receiver for 12 million, meaning in the salary cap they're gonna have still some space for their draft. So they're gonna set. This is actually the best possible scenario for the Dallas Cowboys. So good for them. What do you think?
Well, let me see. I'm just trying to. Was he very productive for Houston?
Oh yeah, he was like their wide receiver 1 basically.
Okay. Did he go over 1,000 yards with them, or did they even have anybody like that?
Are you really gonna school me right now?
Well, no, I'm just trying to. I'm trying to understand, like, because I know he's been a good.
All right, I'm pulling it up for you. Last year he had an off year.
The reason I'm saying this, he's been with a hell of a lot of teams.
Yeah, but last year was a terrible year for him.
Okay.
He only had 699 yards, right?
Okay.
Which is basically half of his normal production. But in the previous 7 years, all but one were over 1,000-yard seasons.
Yeah, and even last year, he still went for 699 yards. That's actually still pretty damn good.
Right. So if he's a number 2 receiver behind CD Lamb getting 700 yards, sign me up for that, right?
Yeah, I know. You have a good deal
That's
here.
like 50 yards a game of production, right?
Yep.
So,
and he's been good. He's been productive pretty much everywhere he's gone.
Yeah. So he was at the Saints and then the Rams and then the Texans. So
wow.
Yeah. So he played for the Patriots 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that.
So yeah. So basically, he's
and he was with New Orleans for a while, so he was good. He went there after we had him, I believe.
Yeah, he's a 9-year veteran. So he's probably got 2 or 3 seasons left in the tank to be a wide receiver 2. This allows you to move on from Gallup if he kind of chokes this next season, and then they can duct tape with bringing in another receiver. And this that have CeeDee Lamb, Cooks, and whoever else. That's a pretty formidable passing attack. That kind of gets you back.
Actually, I'm looking at this little blurb on ESPN. Said he has recorded 6,000-yard seasons. The only 2 players that are better than that, and you're going to like the guy, he's tied with Amari Cooper. So, get rid of Amari. Travis Kelce has 7,000-yard seasons, and Mike Evans has 8,000-yard seasons. So only those 2 are ahead of him and Amari Cooper. That's pretty good. He's been a good receiver.
Yeah. So the Dallas Cowboys, all their fans can just stop talking, and this is good enough to put a team back together. They let Zeke go, which I guess we didn't also talk about, but they let Zeke go this week, and it was really sad because he's going to be a June 1st cap cut. So he could technically re-sign for like a super low amount of money on a hometown deal, but obviously they want him to try to get a little bit of money somewhere else. There's a rumor that Saquon Barkley might be headed to Dallas. That would be nuts to think about. But basically, is Odell Beckham Jr. now essentially not in the mix, do you think, for the Cowboys with them bringing on Brandon Cooks? We can put that to bed.
I would think that he is out. He's not going to go to Dallas. And actually, he tweeted that he doesn't even want a max contract or anywhere near max. He just wants like a reasonable one. I bet you could get Odell Beckham for not that much. Like I would say between 5 and 10, probably. I don't think they're gonna have to pay more than that for him.
I think his best bet, honestly, is just to kind of like lay low until Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then sign a $5 million deal to finish the season, and just be like a playoff push guy. That way he goes and signs with Tampa Bay so they can make a push, or he goes and signs with, Philly. You know what I mean? Someone
Right.
or the 49ers, and he makes a push with them.
Yep. Totally.
Oh my gosh, the stream health is excellent.
Wow.
How is that possible? So it's amazing. It depends on.
Well, it's like this is the old argument about antivirus software.
Yeah.
That we used to joke about back in the 2000s. Like, how do we know that this is actually doing anything? You press the button, it goes, and it's like your computer is good. Okay.
Right.
It's like, I'm telling you, some of this software probably doesn't do a damn thing.
Yeah, your computer needs this update. Pay $9.99. So totally. All right. So then Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. Is it actually happening?
Well, I thought it was a done deal. Now.
I thought it was too, and then
don't. That's what I heard. I heard that it was done.
Okay, so here is the 5 hour ago news. Oh my gosh, what is going on? It says, here's the headline: completing the Aaron Rodgers trade won't be easy for either the Jets or the Packers. The Packers are willing to make a trade happen, but they want a lot. And it's like, dude, he doesn't even want to. Y'all don't want him to play for you anymore. Why do you have to make this difficult? Like, you can't get a lot for this guy because he's already out. Because their worst case scenario is he stays and you have to pay him $60 million, and you got that whole headache for a whole nother year. So I think you just let him go.
Yes, correct.
Oh my god, well that was easy.
Yeah. just like cut him at this point, like just like getting. Like you can't keep him. Like this makes. So what are you gonna do?
Well, they can't cut him because then they have this huge salary cap hit, so they're stuck. So they've got to get a deal done before June 1st.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they have to like eat his part of his money. Yeah. And then I don't know. So
But the thing is, if I was the Jets. Yeah. I would still not want Aaron Rodgers. Like this is just you just watch.
I'm done.
Just watch.
Yeah.
He's never had I'll say this again. He has been able to do whatever the hell he wanted to do because he's in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And they're really nice in the Midwest. They are not like that in New York City. Not like that. It's gonna just be a disaster. Yeah. So if I was the Jets, I would not even be trying to get him either.
Yeah. I just feel like it's one of those situations where you're signing a guy based on 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, and you got to understand something. The expectations would be Super Bowl. The expectations wouldn't be rebuild. You know what I mean? This is another part of the problem. Like their expectations are then that the Jets will win a Super Bowl with him.
Right.
And it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Save the money and just wait. Just wait another year. See if you can get another draft pick. Try it again. The Jets are a dumpster fire.
Yeah. I don't know, man. The NFC. I mean, they're there's 2 or 3 quarterbacks now. I mean, it's like Dak and Jalen, and that's about it. Because Brady's gone. And if Aaron Rodgers is gone, I mean, it's literally just there for the taking between Dak and Jalen. I mean, wouldn't you think? I mean, I'm not really scared of Daniel Jones or Kirk Cousins like to upset anybody and get to the Super Bowl. I just feel like you're basically whittling the NFC down to 2 teams essentially. I don't know. I don't really believe in the Brock Purdy, Shanahan machine. I think their window is closed.
I was going to say Aaron Rodgers to San Francisco could make sense if they had a different coach, but the way that he destroys quarterbacks, that wouldn't work.
He'd get Aaron Rodgers injured in 3 weeks.
Oh yeah,
It's going to be terrible. I'm so over. I'm so glad the 49ers are not going to be good next year. D'Amico Ryans has gone to Houston, and so now you've got Brock Purdy situation, and then the quarterback situation, and Garoppolo's gone to the Raiders. So I just see they're just like a middle team. I wouldn't be surprised to see Seattle actually win the West next year, and they're all like 10-7 teams basically.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I don't like it. I don't care. It's fine. I mean, go to the Jets, but there's nothing about this is going to be good for either him or the Jets.
Yeah.
And then you're just sort of stuck. The other thing that this is, again, I keep coming back to this, but now if the Jets get him, then how long do you think he's going to play? Like, let's say he plays 3 more years, then you're in a rebuild 3 years from now. So unless you're going to go get another quarterback in the draft, like maybe next year, this year, to sit behind them, the Jets are just they're a train wreck. Oh my God!
So Dalton Schultz, the tight end, is probably the number one free agent still available. I'm shocked that he hasn't signed with anybody.
Yep.
So that, I don't know. That tells me the Cowboys aren't gonna. I don't know. I think if the Cowboys don't keep him, they must know something, right? Bobby Wagner is available.
You know what I don't understand?
Yeah, what?
What I don't understand is how is it that so Jonnu Smith got traded away from New England, and then we picked up Gesicki from Miami, and Gesicki's actually a decent tight end,
right.
And Jonnu Smith has been terrible. What I don't fundamentally understand, I understand the Patriots wanting to get rid of Jonnu Smith, but why would another team want to take him instead of just going to get Gesicki? Like, these are the things that, this is why I think these people that say the cap doesn't matter, just push everything out.
Right.
Well, if it didn't matter, then why not go get a better tight end? Why are you taking somebody else's guy that wasn't very productive instead of going after the guy that they're taking to replace the guy? I just don't understand some of these teams and how they think. It's obviously a lot has to do with the salary cap and who you can afford and who you can put under the cap.
This free agent class is just so not okay. So I've got the top 30 listed here. Zeke is ranked 25 most desirable free agent out of this top 30 list. Kareem Hunt 23. I like Kareem Hunt. But like it's got a bunch of defensive ends and linebackers and offensive tackles. Teddy Bridgewater is 12, and I think I lost you again. This is remarkable. Yeah.
It's on here, man. They don't like us.
So it looks like we're getting rated on 3 different technology fronts. Weird. So anywho, Teddy Bridgewater is the 12th ranked free agent. He's quarterback, obviously, for the Dolphins. And I'm just saying, if Bridgewater is the 12th most desirable free agent, Jadeveon Clowney is 10 or 9. I just don't know, man. Like, this is a really thin free agency class. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm not interested in any. I wouldn't want to put any of these people on my team. I mean, I'd take Wagner, but I don't like want to go get him.
Yeah.
It's a weird market. So
yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. It really. Again, Dallas Cowboys should be very good this year, but we will see.
Basically, if Mike McCarthy can't win next season, he's got to go.
Yeah.
You can't. you can't have this much opportunity of a window opening and not like jump through it. You gotta throw a brick through that window, man.
Yep.
And then on the AFC side, I just don't see anything happening at all that's interesting. I mean, if the Jets are the most compelling offseason story, there's basically nothing going on until the draft. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe
No, it's,
I almost
yeah.
don't. There's almost nothing to pay attention to.
Well, like I said earlier, the Patriots basically picking up special team guys right now. So
Yeah.
there's nothing happening.
Right.
So now we gotta wait to see, what the draft brings. But again, the thing with the draft is not all of these guys are going to really impact everything day one. So it's again only a handful of those guys are like super useful coming in. So I don't know.
Well, three of the four XFL games happened this weekend already. The Sea Dragons beat the Roughnecks, as we talked about. The DC Defenders vanquished the Battlehawks yesterday, and the Vipers got their very first win over the hapless Guardians. So now, officially, the Guardians are the worst team in the XFL. The Vegas Vipers are tied with San Antonio for second worst. You've got DC as the only undefeated team. Looks like we were kind of right that we've got DC, Houston, St. Louis, Arlington, and Seattle as like the contenders. But right now it's interesting. So I looked at so we're halfway through the season, and what we're seeing is essentially four teams are not going to are going to be like out, and four teams are going to be in, right? So there's two divisions, and it's 1 and 2 in each division play in a semifinal, and then they go to the championship. So as it stands now, it would be DC versus St. Louis and Houston versus Arlington in the playoffs. Now, here's the thing: San Antonio and Orlando are both not going to claw back, it's looking like. So that's pretty much set. Houston versus Arlington in the South is pretty much how it's probably going to shake out, unless San Antonio makes a run, which seems kind of impossible. They're only a game back technically, but it just seems impossible. On the north side, though, Vegas is terrible, and Seattle is actually not as bad as I thought. So DC, St. Louis, and Seattle are clawing for two positions. So that's going to be kind of interesting to watch with Seattle just beating Houston.
Yes, sir.
So I guess we could say that the North Division is the superior division with three really competitive teams, and the South Division really only has two. So it's kind of already laid out. How do you feel about the XFL with this beautifully healthy, excellent connection stream now on YouTube?
Oh, with a great bit rate. I think that I'm wondering if some of these NFL teams will pick up some of these XFL players after the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, when we were just talking about the free agents that are available, there might be some players in the XFL that would be a little bit more desirable than some of these free agents that are hanging out there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really enjoying the XFL existing. And I don't think you have to be a diehard fan and like watch all the games or anything, but all of the games are entertaining. Even the Orlando Vegas game between two winless teams last night, it was fun, right? There's a lot of NFL games that are not fun to watch, and I have not felt that way about XFL games yet. Where I'm like, right.
Right. No, overall, I think it's been pretty good, and yeah, I definitely think it's here to stay because again, it is now. Here's part of the problem that they run into though. For these March Madness weekends, and I didn't think about this earlier, but they are bumping up against the March Madness craziness, so they are gonna competing with that now is something that I didn't consider earlier on. So that's a real thing. But the playoffs won't happen until after March Madness is over. So they do have this this part of the season is always going to bump into March Madness now.
Yeah, and then their playoffs are going to really basically be right when NHL Stanley Cup is kicking off. So it's a really hard little window. I feel
Yeah.
like it should. I would, you know what I would do? I would actually start the season Pro Bowl weekend, like the weekend before the Super Bowl, right? And uh and so I basically play the Saturday and Sunday before the week before the Super Bowl. And then
Yep.
I do an all day Saturday, 4 games on Super Bowl weekend. So you get football all day Saturday before Super Bowl Sunday, right? And then go into like, week 3 the next week. You know what I mean? I think that would
Yeah.
be awesome because everyone's already hot to trot for football. And I guarantee you that week of Pro Bowl stuff, I'd much rather watch 4 XFL games than the flag football crap. You know,
Correct.
so I think that's when you start it. Anyway,
Definitely going to once you start bumping into the NBA playoffs and the hockey playoffs and the March Madness, then when they kicked it off, it was like, yeah, you had the whole thing to yourself essentially, but now you're now competing with some other leagues for eyeballs. So yeah, it is going to be interesting how they navigate this.
it's just I don't know. It's going to be really interesting because then we'll hear if they're going to come back for another season or not. I think it's been good enough for them to warrant, being around indefinitely. And apparently they're starting a new arena football league again, by the way.
Oh
So,
God.
yeah.
I'm not an arena football fan. I tried to try. I guess it's okay. We actually have that not too far from here.
Arena football is kind of like non-alcoholic beer.
It's but it's almost like, why don't you just watch hockey instead?
Water.
Because if you just want to hear guys smash, see guys smashed up against the side walls, you just watch hockey. I'd struggle with arena football. I get it, but it's so weird.
Well,
it's just so weird.
Yeah, I don't understand like throwing it off the back of the net and it's still like a viable catch, or like tackling somebody into the padded wall. It's kind of weird to me.
At some point, here's I know we're trying to wrap up here, but here's my general philosophy. There are too many damn things for anybody to like. So, I mean, so you have the NFL. So now,
yeah,
you have the Celtics, and you have the Bruins, and you have the Patriots, and you have the Red Sox, and you have the New England Revolution, and then now we have a rugby team, and then we have a lacrosse team, and then now there's going to be a women's sports, a women's soccer team,
right?
And now I've got arena football, and then I have and those aren't all the sports. Then I have the college sports, and that how am I going to manage my calendar how am I going to pay attention? And now we don't have an XFL team. But in theory, I guess they could expand and we could get an XFL team. But there are only so many ways that you can split up these hours. And so even if I wanted to watch a soccer game, which is only 90 minutes, how am I going to follow arena football? This is the problem. I don't know how this is all going to work.
Well, so for me,
it seems like there are too many. See, I think, let me just finish my thought. I think it's the same people that are just fans of the sports. It's not like we're still the same people, and we have to make decisions on how we manage our time. And I might want to watch the Stanley Cup playoffs. But if I watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, it means I can't watch that soccer game. And if I can't watch that soccer game, then I can't watch that arena football game. And do you see what's happening here? And on top of that, I have to go online and do stuff online, and I have to go on the tickety talk. And I need time for that. I need hours and hours for that. So I just don't know how this is all going to work.
Yeah, it's very strange. I feel, and I can't remember, it was one of the YouTuber people, like Gary Neistat or whatever his name is. But he was like talking about how we've essentially, moved our society to this place where, um, work is really like we're not having to go out and hunt for elk to eat tonight. We're not having to go and like churn our own butter, and we're not having to like make candles out of like deer intestines and all that stuff, right? We're not like at the factory 18 hours a day, like risking losing our fingertips in the mill and all the stuff, right? We have all of this free time now, right? And what's strange is social media should be, a very fun thing to, participate in. And yet somehow it's become industrialized to where if you don't churn out 7 pieces of content on TikTok a day for 20 straight days, the algorithm punishes you and no one's going to see you. And all of a sudden it's these platforms are treating the content creators as like unpaid labor. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And they're treating them like, unpaid factory workers, right? To churn out all this. And we talked about this, like, hey, we should cut up some clips of our podcast. Like the purpose of our podcast is to have a fun conversation, right? Where we're not like yelling at each other, calling each other names, which is like basically all, the big sports networks do anymore. There's like, you're an idiot. No, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
No, can you believe that? And it's like, and when you were a football player, you stepped out of bounds, so your opinion's irrelevant, and like, and all this stuff. It's like, it's just terrible, pulp. And so that's
what's weird about it is if you listen. So sports radio is dying. I think there's no question that it's 100%. Dying. So, and I think that
they're all becoming podcasters essentially.
Well, the thing is though, I can't listen to 4 hours of the same conversation for 4 hours. And The thing is, they're not even giving you, they are repeating what they are saying multiple times throughout the 4-hour show.
It's like a memory
So they are
clinic.
talking about, like, they're going to talk about Bailey Zappi and whether or not he should play over Mac Jones in the first hour. Then they'll go back to that in the second hour. Then they'll talk a little bit of Celtics, and then they'll go back to the Celtics again. And you're like, wait a second. I listened to this for 4 hours, and this is the third time we're talking about whether Bailey Zappi should be the quarterback over Mac Jones.
Right.
And it's like the third time I've heard us ask the question, should the Jets get Aaron Rodgers or whatever it is. But it's not even, the content isn't even
content.
Yeah, it's not even, it's just, you're just saying the same thing over and over again to fill 4 hours.
It's like a memory care clinic. That's exactly what it is. You go into like, these memory places and they basically play the same movie over and over again in the little break room, right?
Yep.
Because that's the only way they're going to it's going to stick, You know what I mean? I think it's the only way it's going to stick is it's just like Cocoon on repeat or whatever the movie is, right?
And I know that we've been going long on a lot of these conversations, and that's all right. Like eventually, this will probably be shorter. But the thing is, though, realistically, I don't need an hour and a half to talk about Bailey Zappi and whether he should start over Mac Jones. But they will do that for 90 minutes, 5 days a week.
Right.
So this just leads me, are we just out of ideas, or is that actually just what you have to do to maintain your dying audience base? Because I can't imagine, because the novelty of arena football would be like the novelty of it. It's like that didn't exist before, and now there's this thing, and I can go watch that. But like, we can't talk about arena football for 90 minutes straight, 5 days a week.
Yeah,
we would run out of things to talk about. So my whole thing is, why these things need to be shorter? And I think, but the problem is, there's, like, to your point about Casey Neistat or whatever his name is, they're not paying the content creators to create this content.
Right.
So you're just stuck with the archaic dinosaur, radio stations that just have the big bully pulpit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think but it's the same freaking thing every day.
Right.
I'm not on a rant. This is not rant level, but it's insanity.
Yeah, to me, it seems like enough stuff happens in the world to where you could have a slightly fresh conversation. And
Right.
and that was kind of what we were talking about is like, we wanted to have a conversation that the radio people aren't having. We're not against the radio people.
Correct.
We just wanted to have a conversation that they don't seem to have the time to have because they've got like lawyers and blinds and all these things to sell in between like these 4-minute segments, and all they say in the 4-minute segment is the same thing, right? They say the same thing in the 4-minute segment, and then they're like, "Hey, use this attorney if you're in an accident,"
Yeah.
and it's like okay, but it's like there's more use this attorney if you're in an accident than that's the only actual information that's coming out every day,
And it's even worse than that though, because what actually happens is. And again, I am just suggesting that it's not sustainable. Even if you've got market share now, this is eventually going to fall down because what's happening now on one of our big stations is I will listen to it. Like I don't like the morning show because they don't talk about sports. So I don't listen to the morning show.
Yeah.
But I will that's starting at 10. They talk about sports, but you're hiring this on-air talent, right? Which is actually just the same 12 people that just keep moving around time slots and moving from station to station or whatever. The same like dozen people. But that being said, there are 4 shows, so a 10 o'clock show, then the afternoon show, then the late show, whatever. And you'd think that they would be talking about things slightly different from each other because they're different people, but they talk about the exact same thing on every show. So it's just like a continuation of this conversation that already happened at 10. That happens at noon, then it happens at 2, then it happens at 6. But they don't bring anything that hasn't been talked about up to that point. And that is what really I don't know what to think about that anymore. I really don't.
It's because there's probably an email that's been sent around by a producer or an executive that says, this is our view on this topic.
And
this is our position.
Yep.
Y'all need to all fall in line with this position, right?
Yeah.
Because what's great about this podcast is we have there are clear distinctions between how we think and how we approach things and all worldview and the whole thing. There's lots of things that we agree on and or think on, and it's fun, right? And that's kind of like it's fun about cool relationships to have out in the world, right? But like we've never had emails or texts back and forth about like, this is how we will present ourselves so that, it's like there's none of that narrative building nonsense, right? It's like literally a free form conversation. And
and this is the crazy thing to me is how many times can you take a caller and then it's like, oh, no, you're getting off topic now, so we're going to drop you. So the thing is, it even extends to the callers. If the callers are off the talking point, they don't even get it. They won't even give them 10 seconds to get the point across.
Don't even acknowledge them.
Right. They're like, nope, heard it before, not interested. And they just move on to the next person who will sort of more agree with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, would you even call? I don't even understand that either. And it's the same callers. And that's the other, it's almost like, how are they making any money? Cause it's the same, it's the same callers. It's the same topics. It's the same, on-air talent. So I don't know how it all works, but it is incredibly like Groundhog Day. It really is.
It's like I said, it's like a memory care clinic. It's really weird, and that's why like I said, we're not trying to change the world. We're just trying to make it. We're trying to like have a little fun and have a real actual conversation in the middle of all the noise. But the thing is whether we get, 1,000 loyal listeners or we get 100,000 loyal listeners or a million and go all Joe Rogan, like the whole point of this is, we're having the conversations anyway.
Well, plus there is no. So on the life lesson side, there is some value to what the value of worrying about whether or not the Green Bay Packers are going to release Aaron Rodgers or not.
Yeah.
That doesn't really help anybody. Like, so I can just wait to see what happens, and then I'll be like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is with the Jets now, great, and then we can talk about that. I guess I just don't know why we have to necessarily make this part of our daily life every day. So, like, it's the Aaron Rodgers watch. So I just think that, things are going to change. Things won't sustain the way that they just won't. They won't, because I don't think that, like, the way it's been, I don't think new listeners are listening to like talk radio. I get the sinking suspicion that you're not getting a whole audience to backfill. And so, like, eventually, like, what we're used to now will all just go away and it'll be something else. And the question is, what is that something else? Which is why I think that the Twitter thing is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because
and
Twitter was done right. You wouldn't have to be on multiple platforms. You could literally just go to Twitter, and everything could be done. That's why I think that Twitter, if they can get this right, it changes everything. Especially if you're not going to be at risk to get booted for like copyright strike for the music we're telling you to use.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. Ridiculous. And I don't know. I just I think also with the advent of like all this AI technology, I think like the photography world, the graphics, advertising, all this stuff is there's a huge world of hurt coming for the human worker, just in general. Video games are actually, I guarantee you, video games are coming for actual athletes because people will, like, people will watch drone races, right? Like, they'll set up a drone race inside of a stadium. People will show up, and it's a big light and a spectacle. And you got two or three little nerds in the corner with their remote controls flying these drones around a stadium. Okay. Now, let's be honest. The, the production of the drone race in the stadium, that's the big cost, right? The three nerds with the drones, right? That's about $5,000 of cost. The $300,000 production of like all the light show for, and the cameras to like film it all and all that stuff and broadcast it, like that's the expense. Do you know what I mean? And we're just moving into this world where, um, and I think Ezekiel Elliott is kind of like the poster child for this, right? The idea of a $20 million running back is like, I think it's over. You know what I mean? We're going through a deflationary cycle of contributors. Like, contributors aren't getting as much money. I saw this in Hollywood as well, and we kind of button up, but like I saw this in Hollywood where, you would see like famous actors who used to make like $50,000 for a guest appearance on a TV show or whatever. Well, now they started making like $20,000 for that guest appearance. And then you would see them, things were so weird. You were getting like really cool celebrities who used to make like 50 or 20, right? Doing like literal SAG $1,000, $1,200 a day rate to come in for 3 hours, like, and you're like, wow, like, I can't believe you got this person.
Well, see, what's interesting is, so I don't even, and again, this is not like boomer old man talk. This happens to everybody.
Yeah.
So what the millennials forget is that I know more about music, and I've forgotten more music than you've ever listened to in your life. So you're only paying attention to a very small like slice of music. So
Right.
like to make fun of a boomer who doesn't know who like what the latest Drake song is. Oh, you're just such a stupid boomer. Well, listen, I can name I could name thousands of albums that you've never heard of, right?
Right.
So there's this experience thing that builds up that this next generation is just not considering that there's more than their little slice of what they're paying attention to.
Yes.
And so what I'm getting at is the girl who does the AT&T commercials, and it is time to get a different freaking thing because they are just killing us with the AT&T girl. Right. But in theory, she is more famous than Marilyn Monroe would have been back in the 50s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That girl is everywhere. Nobody. She is literally in one commercial.
Right.
She's not Marilyn Monroe. She's nobody. That could be anybody. Right. But the reality is she's now more famous than famous people.
Well, it's just like the person before her was the Can You Hear Me Now guy. He was like the most famous person in the world for a little while, right?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Exactly. And so what's happening is things that used to be so Marilyn, I'm bringing her up because I was watching an Ella Fitzgerald documentary, and apparently part of the reason Ella Fitzgerald got so popular was because Marilyn Monroe really liked her, and it like just boosted her career.
Gotcha.
So, which is kind of weird, but long story short, that's the reason I'm mentioning her. It doesn't have to be her. But Marilyn Monroe actually was a thing and like was a big deal in her generation, right? And she's still a big deal. Like people still know who she is. Yeah. But
I've got her Playboy reissue in my little tchotchke shelf. By the way, I'm looking at her right now.
It's like a collector's thing, and there was a certain amount of there were other people like her that captured the nation in a kind of weird way, but like now it's just being compressed. You're just being compressed and compressed and compressed. And the thing is, if you don't realize you're being compressed, then you have no idea. Like it could be anything. And the thing is, the AT&T girl, this is the messed up thing. She doesn't even have to be real. Like she doesn't even have to be a real person.
They could AI
they could AI her, and who would know the difference?
Right.
And this is the thing. And so it's the compression that's happening and I'm not going to say it's good or bad, I'm just trying to say you're being ripped off because you're just being robbed of a societal cultural thing, and it just slices and slices and slices, and the slices get smaller and smaller and smaller, and eventually it will just not matter, and it will just all get sucked into a black hole. Like this is part of the problem, which is why not everybody's supposed to be famous. They're supposed to only be a handful of movie stars, but now there are gajillions of people that are famous for any reason. Doesn't matter.
I think the Bella Porch kind of TikTok thing, like she just became like a celebrity just for making weird faces on TikTok, and that's the weirdest thing for me with all the social media is some rando person, who's maybe kind of cute under a certain spectrum of like opinion, like all of a sudden just like pops off and becomes, like Charlie D'Amelio. She's really cute. She's, got a fun personality. She goes on Dancing with the Stars or whatever it was. Yeah. Now she's like hosting or commenting at like, Nickelodeon Awards or whatever those things are. And it's literally, it's whatever moth light bulb kind of thing is happening. I mean, that's really what it is, right? It's like moth to the flame. Yeah. It's like wherever the eyeballs are directed. I mean, it's entirely feasible that, we're just doing our podcast, minding our own business with our, whatever amount of listeners we have. We have some conversation, we talk about something, and it might pop off, and it could be positive or negative, and all of a sudden, all of a sudden people are just talking about it, and the eyeballs direct, and then something happens. It's just like, and it's technically meaningless because like all it is somebody's trying to like take advantage of the fact that you have garnered someone's attention out of the 150 some odd hours a week they have, right?
Right.
That's all it is. I met a novelist recently. She's published like 4 or 5 novels. I had never heard of her or the novels. Were sweet. I'm actually probably going to read one of her books because she's just a cool person. But the thing is even as a novelist who's published, right? Um, you know, like how many books is someone like that actually selling? 2,000, 5,000? Like how many books are they actually selling? Do you know what I mean? And yet they're published.
Right.
And it's fascinating to me, all of it, because all of it is really just kind of like, hey, look at me, interest to actually tell you, right? Or the worst part on TikTok, and now I'm ranting. I apologize. Holy crap! But my least favorite part about TikTok is if a TikTok starts off with the "Did you know?" right? I immediately scroll past the next thing because I don't care what they're trying to like impress me with of the thing that I knew 20 years ago, right? Like, did you know that Michael J. Fox was not the original Marty in Back to the Future? It's like, yes, I I've been around for that long that I have known that for 30 years. Like, why are you making a TikTok about it in 2023? Like, why is that a TikTok? Like, did you know? I was like, oh my God.
Well, the weird thing that I don't get is that what is the value of any of that's on TikTok in terms of like
noise?
It's just like there isn't, but it isn't even. They aren't even necessarily selling you anything.
Right.
It's just look at this random thing this random person is doing, and you're like, oh wow, that's a crazy random thing. But it isn't even. They aren't even necessarily trying to sell you anything. They are just posting random things, and it could be anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, but they're not valuable. Meaning, like, people are actually paying. People are going into debt by like a lot of money to go to college, and so some rando on TikTok is like the goal. Like they're making $1 million on TikTok just doing their random thing.
Sure.
That isn't adding any value to anybody,
right.
like anybody's life. That is the bizarre part of all of this. It's almost like we're all being suckered by a small group of people that own all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sometimes, not to get totally tinfoil hat, but like, for example, there was a YouTuber a couple of years ago, and they kind of like came out of nowhere, and then they have a weird relationship with their family or something, and then she's having a debate whether she wants to go to college or not, yada yada, and lo and behold, her YouTube kind of pops off, and now she's like making enough money to where not going to college is like a viable scenario. Then all of a sudden she's like a successful YouTuber and she's telling everybody that, now she's moving into some apartment that YouTube's paying for. And I'm like,
right.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
You're telling me that when did YouTube get a hold of this girl? Like,
right.
Did they get a hold of her when she had like, 50 followers and 500 followers? Like, because this sounds a lot to me like a rags to riches kind of a story to bait a bunch of other people into like becoming YouTubers to build out the site. But the people who are successful have already been like predetermined to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Am I cynical?
No. I've been thinking, like I said, I don't lose sleep thinking about this stuff, but I definitely feel, and we talked about this last time, I feel like there's this split where there's a group of people, and I'm not talking like we're actually against one another, and I'm not on either side. I'm just saying it seems to me that people are searching in their own way for something that is more substantial, and so some people may drift towards Christ. Some people may drift towards buying a piece of land and building a log cabin on it. And it's this dilemma that we're in where the things that are seemingly important and the things that are seemingly making money are just incredibly trivial. You know what I mean? And then the things that are hard are just not considered important in the way that this is shaping up. And there's this tension that I can see it, and people are trying to feel it out and see like which way this thing is tipping. But at some point, what is the point of going to college if you're just going to spend your day flipping through TikToks, ad nauseum for 4 hours a day? What's the point of doing anything? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really strange. I just feel like we're in this weird malaise part of our culture. It's like when like if you go to like Byzantine Empire, if you go to like French Revolution and all that stuff, we're kind of in this we're in a shift of some sort. But I mean I talk to millennials, I talk to the younger kids, right? I got nieces and nephews and all that stuff. And the thing is what's tragic is some of them get it and they're yearning and they're in a universe where majority of the people around them don't get it and don't care that they don't get it. And because we're about to hit this place where um, things are going to get really uninteresting for everyone. Like everyone's going to just get uninterested. And the worst thing for an economy, I'm telling you, the worst thing for an economy is apathy, right? Because if you're advertising to people who have apathy, they're not processing the advertisement, one. And then two, if they're apathetic in general, they are also not seeking the resolution to whatever problem you think that they probably have, right? So all of a sudden, that's where like an economic downturn actually occurs, is when people just stop, uh, you know, giving a darn. Do you know what I mean? Like it all just kind of it all just kind of like falls in on itself because nobody cares enough. Like there's been a lot of like, just as an example, tragedies or crises recently in the news. You know, something something blows up, something is poisoned, something gets recalled. You know, my mom called me about there's some strawberry recall or something because of whatever.
E. coli or whatever.
Yeah. But it's like these things happen now and nobody cares. And I think I blame post 9/11 essentially, which was post 9/11, it was like just the big hammer ding and orange alert, and it was like everything was like just it was Pavlov's dog with the bell. It was like, oh my God, this is a crisis.
There was a point where we couldn't get out of orange. We were just stuck in perpetual orange.
Yeah,
so we were always on like sort of high alert, but not really.
I mean, seriously, we went through several years of threat level. Like we were threat level red, threat level orange, threat level tapioca. I don't know, but it was like I feel like this generation having gone through that, it's like, I mean, we had a tornado come through town this last week, just as an example, okay? And like, I could move my car. It was going to maybe hail or whatever. And I was like, it looks like it's going to move north of town, so I'm not too worried about it. Well, lo and behold, the hail came through and it was like golf ball size hail. And I got a couple of dings on my truck, right? And I went out there and for about, maybe 3 minutes, I was disappointed. I was like, I should have moved it, whatever. And then I thought about it. I was like, I don't even care I don't care about the 3 hail dings. And pre 9/11 me, pre threat level orange me would have been like really hot and bothered about it, right? But I've just gone through so much like stuff where I'm like, so what? And I feel like as a society, we've reached the so what part of our culture. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I was actually thinking about this the other day, and so when it's hard. I don't want to sound like a curmudgeon old boomer, but like at some point, there's only so much pleasure you can get out of granite countertops. And like at some point, putting in another addition on your house is only going to like have so much like value. At some point, you're running out of time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
how am I? I'm thinking of all the people that just bought when you bought a house or whatever. It's a cool experience, but then you've inevitably there's something you don't like about it, and you've got to build something else, and you want a new kitchen, and you want a new bathroom. The problem is this mindset never ends.
Right.
And so you're constantly chasing this, call it chasing the dragon, but in a different way. You can never renovate your kitchen often enough. You'll never reach it. It's chasing the dragon. It's just some people do it with drugs, some people do it with alcohol, some people do it with just trying to remodel their kitchen 15 gajillion times. And it's this sense of inadequacy if you haven't remodeled your kitchen. Oh, when's the last time you put granite on? 5 years ago. Oh man, you got to re-granite. We needed an addition. But the thing is that never ends.
Right.
But there's really it's again it's fleeting because you don't have enough time. Like you don't. You, and I'm not trying to say not to make money or not. I'm not saying that at all. But you are still constrained by the amount of time you have. And so you have, to your point about the truck, how much time are you going to invest worrying about some hail dents? When you're 30, maybe that's a crisis. That's an existential temporal threat.
Right. How am I going to go pick up my girlfriend with this?
Right. But at some point, dude, you're all going to get old. Like you can't, it's inevitable. There's only so much you can do. So I think what young people are getting at, what I'm seeing a little bit, I'm actually seeing it in these weird circles because I told you about I smoke pipes and I'll sometimes watch videos on pipes if I'm trying to learn something. But I've seen younger like guys going in there trying to be like, I know there's more to life, but I just don't know I don't exactly know what to do. So but they're like, so I'm going to start smoking a pipe, and it's like well, it isn't really smoking a pipe that you're searching for. You know what I mean? You're not. Exactly. That isn't the solution.
Right.
So, but you can. And I'm not saying I'm saying good for you, but smoking a pipe isn't the solution.
Right.
But they're seeking. You can just tell they're seeking something, and I see that again and again in that genre. So it probably exists a lot of other places. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
But they're searching for something that they're not going to get out of TikTok. It's not that you will never get it. It is like you said it really well last time we spoke. It is, Charlie Sheen gets all coked up and then he spends a decade trying to chase that first time he got coked up.
Right.
And he'll never be able to do it.
Right.
And there's so much wisdom in that because that is so freaking true.
Right. Yeah. And, and that's the thing is, we built modern society as this hamster wheel. It's a dragon chasing hamster wheel is what they've constructed for us. And you can either be on it or be off of it. And, I opted to jump off of the hamster wheel a long time ago. And I love it. And and even like with this, I was a little bit skeptical of like, hey, should we do a podcast or not or whatever, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, I enjoy our conversations because to me, I feel like there's an arena where conversations can happen that are meaningful that don't have to. I mean, we're not transforming the world. There's not going to be like a shrine built to, the conversations we've had. But the point is that there needs to be a place where people are having a real conversation that is not dictated by ad dollars, by big pharma, by, an algorithm trying to chase views and followers and clicks and likes and subscribe and notification bell and all the stuff that needs to exist. And, whether 10 people enjoy it or 100 people enjoy it or 100,000 people enjoy it, like it needs to exist. And so us doing it this way is like we're not getting on the hamster wheel. If the hamster wheel comes to us, great, whatever. But like we're not getting on it.
Well,
Right.
and I think it's important because again, I think there are a lot of people. I'll use an example. There's a famous cartoonist who decided he had enough. He's worth 100 million now, so he can start yapping.
Oh,
Well,
God.
it isn't helping anybody for you to start yapping because you are worth $100 million, bro.
Yeah.
So there's no downside for you.
Right.
The problem is people are listening, and I'm not saying not to do this, but a lot of people take this advice verbatim,
Right.
and they're not worth $100 million.
Right.
So it's that is the other side of that coin is that you're it's all different when you're a billionaire. Like you can say whatever the hell you want because there's no downside.
Right.
But
Even if you
can't
get
do that.
canceled, you got enough money to like sit on the beach and not worry about it.
Precisely. But a person who actually has a job that gets canceled, that is a problem. You know what I mean? That's an existential threat to them. So I'm not saying not to say all this stuff, but I'm just trying to say that you have to be really careful of who you're listening to because these people have their own biases and they have their own motivations and they're in different financial situations and you don't really know who's backing them. You don't know anything. You really shouldn't trust two random guys on a podcast talking about this stuff. That's the life lesson in all of this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah.
What I'm saying though, it's the thing is, it's like we've obviously done a lot of research on Buddhism and done a lot of. And I'm not even saying don't even go down the Buddhism. I'm not even saying to go down the Buddhism path at all. There's a lot of loons in that whole thing.
Oh boy.
There is no answer. It's just that, and it's not that there isn't longing, and there isn't. There are things that you get upset about. All that is totally natural. The thing that's interesting about Buddhism to me is the Buddhism is ultimately trying to say, listen, man, let that go.
Yep.
The stuff that you have no control over, you got to let it flow like an ice river. But it's super, and I'm not there, but I'm saying it's super hard to get like that. You have to be willing to let a lot of stuff just go.
Yeah.
And that takes time. And it's like, I spent a lot of years fighting against it, just pushing back against it.
Oh yeah, me too.
And when you stop pushing back against it, you're not a pacifist. You are just realizing there's no wisdom in pushing back against it. Like if the cartoonist wants to say whatever he wants to say, you don't have to partake in being on one side of that or the other side of it. Right. You can just be like, this person said something, I heard it, and I can agree with it, not agree with it, whatever. It doesn't really impact you. But I think a lot of people are they're locked into, I better get on a side before something bad happens. But it really doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people really, forget. I mean, I'll give you an example. Yesterday I had a really rough day in a lot of ways. I was dealing with some people who were very eccentric and heart of gold, no malice, but eccentric, difficult through those eccentricities. Other people I was around were very agitated. Some people were like very empathetic. So there's this whole spectrum of like whatever. And I was kind of in the middle. I was viscerally, what I guess you could say, perturbed. I wasn't agitated, but I was like disrupted, right? Like the stone in the water ripples, right? Ripples were like consistent and going on. But through my like, Buddhist wisdom, like, methodology of trying to like just let it be, I understood that this thing wasn't about like me. I was just present to it, and there was nothing I was going to be able to do to like escape the thing, right? So I had to like just let the ripples happen and trust in, nature. It's going to eventually, this little rainstorm kind of a thing is going to pass, and then it will be tranquil again. And it's like, okay, but like me sloshing around in the water isn't going to help the ripples. Do you know what I mean? Like it's going to make more ripples. And a lot of people don't understand that. They slosh around in the water like they're drowning when it's like, hey, you just got ripples going on and you'll return to stillness. But if you stay still, the thing that's causing the ripple will most likely pass, right? And and I don't mean like a dictator. Like we don't have to like talk about like authoritarian, like, armies are moving in to like invade Poland. That's a completely different thing. I'm talking about moment to moment, right?
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, but
well, have you ever been in a situation where you've regretted getting into a conversation and you're like, this isn't even my fight. I don't even want to be part of this conversation, but you get sucked into it.
Oh, then
you start participating and you're like, why am I doing this?
We can talk about this next week. I met someone who is involved in baseball.
Whoa.
And I was like, just making chit chat and was kind of like, hey, what do you think about the clock? And I just kind of wanted just a take, just a quick take, right? And then he said something to me, and I was like, there was something viscerally that happened in me, and I picked up the rope. I like all of a sudden, and I noticed about maybe 6 minutes into it, I was like, I actually don't have a dog in this hunt, but like I've just like picked up a side. I've just picked it up, right?
Yep.
And I had this moment where I was like, I need to like not have this conversation anymore because like I don't even care or believe in the point I was trying to make. I just literally I just went down the rabbit hole like, on a side, just like on accident.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people maybe, I don't know if they don't have the self-awareness or they're just so flustered and they don't have like the pause button where they can be like, what am I talking? Oh my God, I got to stop. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people do that online too. It's like they kind of just get roped into like a Karen tornado and they just have to chime in and the whole thing. They don't have like whatever, what is it? Impulse control? I think impulse control is a really big thing with it too.
Yeah, but no, totally feel that. So I will tell you. So we were, if you go 3 hours ago when we started this podcast, if you go back and listen to our conversation about non-alcoholic beer, that was actually really funny. But so, all right, here's the thing. I stopped drinking alcohol like around Thanksgiving. I quit drinking like around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, good for you.
The thing is though, you think that you can make changes in like a week or 2 weeks or a month. It doesn't happen like that. It takes a lot longer. So I think that what happens with a lot of people is because we want instant results, and I'm not saying we need a pill for everything, but there's a lot of that. Things take a lot longer. Like you can't just resolve problems in like a short period of time. So but I will tell you, like, I'll just be honest. When I was drinking booze, I would have a much lower threshold of getting into an argument online with somebody.
Impulse control.
Impulse control. So it isn't even that I wanted to necessarily get in an argument. I just didn't care. I didn't care what the ramifications were by getting into this conversation. Right. I'm like, screw you. You're wrong. I'm going to have my peace. What I've actually noticed is the farther I get away from like having that alcohol, like what do they call it, beer muscles or whatever.
Yeah.
It really does change your mind. It changes your outlook because then you're just like, why do I really want to talk about this? Like, why do I want to argue with this idiot? And again, I'm not trying to say people are idiots, but sometimes you just get in. Some idiot says something to you online or in real life, and you're like, "F you! I'm gonna fight with you." Right. And the thing is, once you can start to unstick yourself from that, you just look at people in a different way.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I've got any answers or I'm looking at things correctly, but it just changes how you look at these stupid petty arguments, like the pickleball thing. That like essentially, I am now basically hated by like a friend of a friend because I didn't take her side on hating pickleball. And I'm like, why am I even in this conversation? I don't even want to be in this conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you will ruin relationships over the dumbest stuff.
Yeah.
So you just have to realize if you're willing to just ruin a relationship, then just keep on doing that. And eventually they're either going to drop you or you're somehow going to get eliminated.
Yeah. You can be an Eagles fan if you want to be an Eagles fan.
Exactly. But like I said, the more time it will give you perspective, and then you got to work at it. You got to just realize, oh, I am now falling down that rabbit hole again, and you just got to try to avoid it because it ain't solving any problem, and it isn't making your life better. I'll tell you that.
Amen. Well, I'm gonna hop off and get to my family.
Oh, screw your family! Let's go play pickleball. Come on, ping, ding, ding.
You need to follow up with me on original hot sauce and masa chips.
Yes. And then that is on the agenda.
And then I'm gonna go see if YouTube has sent me something because now it says no data. That's amazing.
So, oh my God!
I know. I don't understand it. So anyway, there it goes. I'm gonna sign us off.
Yes.
It's been fun. Might cut this up into 2 parts. I don't know.
Yeah. This thing's a bear.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the conversation. We'll get together on Wednesday or Thursday.
All right, so we'll have some clarity after the rest of these games, so let's get back to it then.
Yeah. Yay, March Madness.
Woo!
All right. See you, Buckaroo.
Later.